Okay, so second part of this one, okay, we're going to do 4 more examples. Now what you'll notice about these here, no numbers. Okay, so our answers are going to end up still staying as like algebraic expressions. Okay, so my answers are going to be like a 2x plus 10 or something along those lines there. You're not going to have a single number as an answer. Okay, so for this one, if we recall back, I've got f open circle g of x. It's very important that we know what that means. F open circle g of x means f of g of x. Okay? If I have down below here g open circle f of x, that means g of f of x. Okay? So it's important. We have to remember what that means. Now, I'm going to use some colors here just to help us keep track of some stuff. So I've got my f of x function equals 2x plus 3. And I've got my g of x function equals 3x plus 1. Okay, so we just said that our f open circle g of x, okay, that means f of g of x. Okay, now, what is our f of x function? Well, my f of x equals 2 times x plus 3. Okay, so here we'll take out that g of x for a second. I know that my f of x function is going to be f of x equals 2x plus 3. It's the same thing as what's up there. Do you guys see that? It's the same thing that's up there. Okay. Now, we talked about that our f open circle g of x means f of g of x. So I have my g of x plugged into my parentheses there. Okay? If I have g of x here, that means I have g of x here. Well, what is g of x? Well, if we look up top here, g of x is 3x plus 1. So I'm just replacing my g of x with a 3x plus 1. So I'm going to have a 3x plus 1 in here as well. Okay? And then this looks exactly like what we did on the first slide. So now I'm going to take 2 times 3x, which is 6x, 2 times 1, which is 2, plus 3, and I get 6x plus 5. And that tells me that my f open circle g of x equals 6x plus 5. Okay? Let's try another one. Okay? So, now down below here, I've got g open circle f of x, which means g of f of x. Okay? So, using our color, then that means g of f of x. And we know that our g of x function, g of x equals 3x plus 1. Well, I plugged in an f of x here, which means there needs to be an f of x plugged in over here. We take it one step further. What is our f of x function? Well, f of x is 2x plus 3. So I've got 2x plus 3 plugged in there, and that means that I need to have 2x plus 3 plugged in over here. Okay, so again, I had f of x was plugged in here. Well, f of x equals 2x plus 3. We can see that from up there. So I've got my 2x plus 3 here, which means I've got to have 2x plus 3 here. Now to simplify, I'm going to distribute. 3 times 2x gives me 6x. 3 times 3 gives me 9 plus 1. And I get that equals 6x plus 10. So I could say that g, open circle f, of x equals 6x plus 10. Okay, let's go on to the last slide here. Okay, I want you guys to pause the video for a second and see if you can figure out these last two. So go ahead and pause the video for a second. Okay, I hope you've at least attempted these to give it a shot. Okay, let's see how we're supposed to do these. So I've got my g of x function equals x squared, and I've got my k of x function equals x cubed plus 1. Sorry, I did them both in red. I'll make my k of x be a blue function there. Okay, so I'm going to start out. I've got g open circle k of x. So that means I'm going to have g of k of x. Okay, so what is my g function here? Well, my g function is just simply x squared. Okay, so I've got k of x plugged in here. G of x equals x squared. G of k of x equals k of x squared. Okay, now I'm going to plug in. Well, what is k of x? Well, k of x is x cubed plus 1. So that means that I've got over here an x cubed plus 1 squared. Okay, so now I'm going to go through and solve this. Well, the first thing is if I've got an x cubed plus 1 squared, that's an x cubed plus 1 times an x cubed plus 1. So we're going to FOIL x cubed times x cubed. That's going to give me an x to the 6th. X cubed times 1 is going to give me a plus x cubed. 1 times x cubed gives me a plus x cubed. 1 times 1 gives me a 1. So I end up with x to the 6th plus 2x cubed plus 1. And that is g open circle k of x. Okay, go ahead and make sure you have all that written down before you go on. Kind of ran down a little bit longer, so I'm going to have to erase some of that. Okay, but that's our g open circle k of x. Okay, we're going to go ahead and erase. All right, now on the bottom, I've got another weird one. I've got g open circle g of x. So I'm going to be taking my g function and plugging it into my g function. I'm plugging it into itself. Okay, so this means g of x. Okay, that's weird because they're the same color. Here, I'll make it green. So this is the first g of x that I'm plugging in. So that means I'm going to have something squared, and I've got my g of x that I'm going to plug into that. So what is our g of x function? Well, if I look up here, g of x is x squared. Okay, so this is going to be g of x squared. And that equals x squared squared. So if I've got a power to a power like I have here, I'm going to make that, multiply them. That gives me an x to the 4th. So I find that g open circle g of x equals x to the 4th. Okay? This is not the easiest lesson to do, but we've got some practice in. You guys have your worksheet. The whole front page is going to be these types of problems. Some of them have numbers. Some of them do not. Take your time on these. The answer key is up over on the bulletin board. Do your guys' best. I will be back on Monday, so you guys can come in for help on Monday. Yep, I will see you guys again on Tuesday, and I'll have your tests graded on Tuesday as well for you guys to look at. All right, have a good weekend.